Guys, Master here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be doing the EZA team building guide for AGL Android 13, which will be coming out tonight, well, technically tomorrow, on both versions of the game. It drops at midnight PST, which is 8 AM in the morning UK time. I will be live over on my channel to do the 30 stages and then test out the unit in some events. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. I'll probably go live half an hour before it comes out so we can get everything set up. So yeah, as I always do, we will be doing the team building guide. The weakness category is Super Saiyans, not really surprising considering they often tie the category of these Extreme Z battles to the release of the latest new unit, right? Because it will help you to do the event if you pull the new unit. But of course, there are many ways to get around this without having your own copy of the LR Super Saiyan Trio, but they will probably be the best friend for you to use, right? So this is a typical 30-stage EZA. We're not going to be talking about STR units, of course, due to the type of disadvantage, but once we get to, this is from stage 13, and then I think it actually just kicks in from stage 13 anyway, because what's the one up here? Yeah, see, physical units don't have a massive debuff here, but as soon as you get to stage 13, ironically, super physical units get a huge debuff. So we won't be talking about any physical units in this guide bar for one because of their leader skill. But yeah, we get through the 30 stages. You start fighting Fusion 31, Fusion 13 from stage 25 for the last 5 stages, and then obviously if you want to go past that, you can farm the Zeni statue. So you're going to get your medals that you need to EZA him. You're going to get the 30 stones. If you beat the missions along the way, I think it adds up to like 34. You also get a bunch of the AGL Kais, so you can get them straight to SA 15, and there's a couple left over spare, which is always nice. So yeah, typical 30 stage EZA. So the weakness category is Super Saiyans. We're going to take a look at that here. It's a pretty sizable category with some of these units, especially even if we're cutting out physical and STR. There's still quite a few units here to choose from. So as always with my team building guides, I will be going through my top picks and honourable mentions for the best units you can use to build a team to beat the EZA. If there's any units you think I missed out or I should have talked more about why they would be good for this event, let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, if you do find the guide helpful at all, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, obviously, we're going to mention the new LR straight away. They are a full 200% lead for Super Saiyans. If you did pull them, they're going to be the best leader for the team because they cover everybody else on the team with a full 200%, and also because, you know, they're incredibly good. So nothing really we need to say about these guys. If you've got them, they're who you're going to be using. If you don't have them, they're who you're going to be using as a friend. So, I mean, you'll be using them as a friend if you do have them, obviously, but you'll still be able to get one copy of these guys. EZAs are usually pretty good because everybody who does have these guys will be using them as their leader, which means if you don't have them, there'll be tons of like guest friends available for the EZA for you to use one, right? So, pretty straightforward. These guys are going to be smashing it up, and yeah, there you go. So if you've got them, you're running them. So that's all we need to say. If you don't have them, however, we have the STR Goku and Gohan. Now, they are STR, so of course they're not going to do a ton of damage, especially in the later phases, even if they're getting crits, because they're, you know, one of the damage reduction classes. But they do have the leader skill for the full 170, and then any units that are on Android/Cell Saga, which of course does include them, get the extra 30%, and there are a few of those that we'll be talking about. So if you haven't got the full 200% lead with the Carnival LR, then obviously any units you can get on the team under a 200% leader are only going to help make the whole thing easier for you overall. So whilst these guys aren't going to be doing much damage, they do have the dodge chance after Goku supers, so in slot 2 or 3 they should be fine. Of course, if you get to the later stages and, you know, you get hit by a super and don't dodge, you could potentially get killed or at least take a lot of damage. But these guys should be able to handle it pretty well as the leader of the team, just so you can bring a full Super Saiyans team, as well as getting a number of units under the 200%. You're probably never going to see Gohan, because even if you double super, you wouldn't be able to exchange until turn 6 at the earliest, or sorry, turn 5, and EZAs are usually done by then, right? So these guys, good as a stand-in leader, but of course not the best. And then there is the Int LR Namek Goku, right? He has a Super Saiyan's leader skill for 170 to HP and attack and 150 to defense. So a bit lower defense, but he isn't going to suffer from the issue of being an STR unit. So he will be able to do solid damage. Remember, of course, when it comes to EZAs, that you can only use one unit with the same name. So there probably is another Super Saiyan, well I say probably, we're going to be talking about him of course, but there is a Super Saiyan Goku that I think would be a much better option for the team. But if you need a leader, then of course this guy can run the Super Saiyan's category leader skill. And he's going to be decent, right, as long as he gets hit first, or if he's in slot 2 or 3, you can get additional super attacks off, build up some defense. He's a bit outdated for the hardest content in the game at the moment, but for an Extreme Z battle, he obviously should be perfectly fine. He does have the active skill, can be used when facing one enemy who's extreme and 30% or less HP. So it's kind of funny, you can just use this to finish the EZA stage if you get onto that last turn, and you can just fire off the active skill. But yeah, probably not the Super Saiyan Goku I would bring, but he can make a good stand-in leader, and if you're not running any of the other ones on the team, then obviously he will be a strong member of the team in terms of both damage and reasonable defense. Next up we have this guy. So I thought we'd have to mention God Goku because of course his leader skill, Pure Saiyans or Hybrid Saiyans, you can of course make a full Super Saiyans team with him if you don't have any of the other leaders. And if any of those characters are also on Power of Wishes or Exploding Rage, then they will be getting the 200% leader skill as well. So even though he won't be doing any damage, because we've already said physical units get that debuff, he's very good defensively. If you can get his orbs, he's guarding. Even with the 3 orbs, he's dodging. So he'll be a very good leader for the team. I think he's probably the next best leader, just because if I had to not run the Carnival Super Saiyans, I would probably want to run him over Goku and Gohan, depending on how many units that you have that will fit under their 200%, right? If you can make a full team with the STR Goku and Gohan, where everyone on the team is a Super Saiyan that's getting the 200% leader skill from them, I would say run them. If you can run a team with this guy where everyone, or more units, depending on who you have in your box of course, is getting the 200% leader skill, then this guy is of course better than Goku and Gohan, but the more 200% units you can get on the team, the better. So he's good only for the lead. His damage is completely nerfed, but his defense will be good as well. But I wouldn't run him really unless you're running him as the leader. And then of course we have the Spirit Bomb Absorbed Goku. Now this guy, he has the Super Saiyan's leader skill, so you could use him as a last resort as a leader for 150 and 4 key. Otherwise he's just going to be a very strong unit on the team. He gets a buff if you have a Super Saiyan ally team, which, well, full Super Saiyan team, which we will. You know, he's a nuker. He's able to do a lot of damage. I still don't think though that he's going to be the best Super Saiyan Goku for this event. And you guys know who I'm going to be talking about, right? Because the tech one has type advantage. But if you don't have the tech one, this guy's super good on the team. Not the best leader because of the lower leader skill, but will be able to do a ton of damage. Early on, he'll be like one-shotting the phases, right? So if you're running him on the team, he will be very, very good. And then, of course, we have the Super Saiyan Goku that I would pick, since you can only bring one of them, and that is the Tech Carnival Goku. He has type advantage. He takes that first hit of the turn and gets a bunch of extra defense. He also builds up attack by getting hit as well. So not only is he very good defensively, especially in this kind of event, he also can hit back pretty hard as well. And if you are having a bit of trouble, if you're finding the later stages more difficult, maybe you have a bit more of a limited box, you know, lacking dupes in a lot of units, him having a revival can be really useful later on as well. He also has the active skill. You can't use it until turn 5, but it does damage and has an action break. So again, if you're struggling with the later stages, that could come in very useful as well. So this guy I would say absolute go-to for this event, also because he is a very good slot 1 unit. Whereas, like, you know, the Carnival LR Super Saiyans don't really want to go in slot 1. So, for me, I'm putting the Carnival Super Saiyans as my leader. And then this guy straight away is, like, the next pick, right? Because he's on the category. He's got type advantage. Good defensive unit for slot 1, as well as good damage. So, he is just a shoe-in for me to be the Super Saiyan Goku that you're going to want to bring on the team, right? So next up we have some other tech Super Saiyan LRs that are pretty good for this. The LR Super Saiyan Goku and Gohan from the Worldwide Celebration from when the STR Goku and Gohan came out. They are specifically differently named so they can link. So you could run them both on the team if you needed to run the STR one as the leader. These guys will get the 200% leader skill from him. So these guys will be very, very good. They're not a slot 1 unit either, but in this event, you know, EZA is not super hard hitting. They've got type advantage. Like, they will do a ton of damage in slot 2 or 3 if you end up floating them, and they won't take much damage on the way back. So if you have these guys, again, I feel like these are a pretty good go-to unit just for dealing a ton of damage and getting through these phases as quickly as possible. Their active skill, 5th turn as well, so pretty awkward to see that in an EZA, but these guys definitely is very strong. I'll probably be using them on my team, along with the other Tech Super Saiyans LR that are now very, very powerful for events like this. The Go Bros, Gohan and Goten, with their EZA. The amount of damage that these guys can output is pretty crazy. So for something like an EZA, where they're on the category and they have type advantage, they will just be absolutely shredding through his health bars. Even if you don't get the best RNG and they're doing some additional normals, as they're building up their passive by performing each attack, they're going to be able to get up to doing some pretty crazy amounts of damage. Their active skill you can only use when your own HP is 59% or less, but it is starting from the 3rd turn. So if you do get hit hard in the later stages on the 1st and 2nd turn, these guys could come in and then just active skill for the win. So absolutely, I'll be running them as well. They are very similar to the last unit we talked about, Goku and Gohan, where they can go in slot 2 or be floated in slot 3 and just be there to do a ton of damage. Next up, we also have the Trunks and Broly. So this is only for you JP players out there, because obviously this is coming to both versions at the same time, and this unit is not out on global. The TUR isn't even out on global, right? So Trunks and Broly, very solid unit. Rainbow Orb Changer that can be floated in slot 3, helps to benefit everyone else on the team. They are actually really good for the LR Super Saiyans, like the Carnival LR for their team, because they're providing that orb changing that helps link up all of the orbs. They get their full defensive capabilities by doing additional supers, but you are having type advantage in this event as well, right? So even if you get the unlucky turn where they do a super and then a bunch of additional normals, they should still be capable defensively, right? Because they're on the bonus category and have type advantage. So definitely, if you're on JP, very, very strong free-to-play option for the team, right? Next up, we have the AGLR Gohan. So strong defensive unit, has guard as long as you're above the HP restriction. He's on the 200% for the STR Goku and Gohan as well, so that team does build out quite nicely. He is actually on the 200% for God Goku as well, so this guy, absolute go-to as well for this unit. He does have a high chance to crit because you're fighting against an android. So, I mean, this guy, again, like very, very easy pick for this EZA. There's so many strong LRs here. If you don't have all of them, I know LRs, for some people, especially the older ones, or if they're Dokkan Fest, not everyone's going to have all of these LRs, but all of the ones that we've talked about so far, very strong options for the team. So, Gohan, very strong defensively, can hold down slot 1, built-in crit chance because it's an android enemy. So yeah, just an absolute solid unit, great link set with everyone else on the team. A very good option here. Then we have the AGLR Super Saiyans from the Metal Cooler movie. Now, these guys obviously are... they've got a bit of a bad reputation. They were underwhelming on release, I would say. And then, of course, with the new difficult content that's come out, they've only become more and more sort of irrelevant. But, you know, they can do some work in an EZA for sure. They have damage reduction in the early turns. They launch additional supers. Their leader skill, you could definitely get through with some of the units that we've talked about so far. You could easily make a full team with their leader skill, and they're giving Pure Saiyans the extra 30% as well. So they could even be a stand-in leader. I probably won't use them as someone that has every single unit to choose from, but they definitely deserve an honourable mention. They will certainly be able to do a lot of work in this event. So worth considering to add on the team if you're lacking some of the other more powerful LRs. Because at the end of the day, they are a Dokkan Fest LR. So for something like an EZA, they are going to be providing a lot to the team in terms of the damage output. Very solid defensively because the event is not crazy hard, right? So they will be a very solid option as well. Next up, we have another JP only. for how long, who knows. Super Trunks obviously starts off as Super Saiyan Trunks. I think his leader skill, actually, Mastered Evolution or Android/Cell Saga, you could probably make a full team out of his lead, because of course there's a bunch of the Android/Cell Saga Goku and Gohans on there. But this guy, be okay in this setup. You do need to have the Android/Cell Saga allies in order for him to get his full potential, but he can be pretty good. He has an active skill condition that you can use on turn 3, which basically disables an enemy action and gives him an attack buff. You're probably not going to get to the point where you're seeing him transform or go into the full power trunks, but he can be a solid option for the team. I don't know, even as a JP, if I had him in my box, I probably wouldn't bring him over some of the other units that we've talked about, but he certainly can be worth running if you have him, if you're a JP player, right? Next up, we have the Tech Vegeta. He, from Battle of Gods, he can be a pretty decent unit on the team. He gets hit 3 times, he then provides support for the rest of that turn and for the next turn, which is pretty good. He has a transformation on turn 5, so very unlikely to see that in an EZA, unless he, I guess you could get to turn 5 if you're struggling in the later stages, and then he can transform, which does give him a buff against movie bosses, which we will be fighting, but very unlikely that you'll see this. Honestly, his best role, if you do have him, is just put him on the team. If he's on the first turn and you can get him hit 3 times, just put him where those attacks are, and then everybody else on the rotation and then the next turn is getting a buff, and then you just potentially win in 1 or 2 turns, right? Even in the later stages, if your hard hitters are then getting, like say the next turn, you have the LR Super Saiyans, or even turn 1, put him in slot 2, put this guy in slot 1 if he's getting hit 3 times, and then the LR Super Saiyans in slot 2 are going to do a ton of damage. Any of the other LRs, really, they get this buff from this guy, and they're obviously going to be much, much better. So I think he is a go-to inclusion on the team as a support if you don't want to just run a full team of like damage-dealing LRs, right? So solid choice for sure. Next up, we have the Tech Trunks, the EZA during the Worldwide Celebration. Because we're fighting an android enemy, he basically auto-supers and gets guaranteed crits. So I think he's a pretty good inclusion for a TUR, right? Because we've covered a lot of LRs, but when it comes to TURs, this guy I would say is probably a go-to, because he can hit some pretty good hit some pretty good numbers, and do very good damage because he's getting guaranteed crits. Also, if we have a future Gohan on the team, he's going to get a bit of an extra buff. And of course that leads us into this guy right here, the Int Future Gohan. Support unit for Bonder of Master and Disciple, which a lot of the Gohans that we've talked about are already on, as well as that Trunks. If you have Trunks in the same turn, he has a high chance to guard. So running him with that Tech Trunks would actually be really good for this event. Having a Trunks on the team allows him to transform on turn 4, as long as you have enough HP, which, like I say, the later phases, you might get to turn 4, get this guy to transform, and then he's obviously very, very good. But even in his untransformed state, just as a support unit for a lot of other units on the team, he can be very good. So if you're considering running this guy and you have a bunch of these other Gohans that have the Bond of Master and Disciple category, then of course running this guy will be very, very helpful, because he'll be providing support to them as well as being a solid defensive unit. He also has, after his EZA, a lot of HP, so he increases the overall HP of your team by a pretty significant amount as well. So very, very solid inclusion on the team. And then last but not least, I thought I'd mention this guy. He of course is a Super Saiyan Goku as well, so you can't run any of the other LRs if you're running him, but as a free-to-play option, if you're missing any of the other LR Super Saiyan Gokus, this guy can be pretty good as well, right? Because he has counters, he can have dodge chance as well, depending on which slot you put him in. He can be a very good free-to-play choice. So that was the top picks and honorable mentions for Super Saiyans. Having a quick look at the list, you've got like the GT, Youth Duo, and the Future Trunks, good free-to-play options as well. A Tech Gogeta, a bit outdated now, but could be kind of useful. Very unlikely you'll get to see him fuse, but could be good. Same with the Prime Battle Goku. A bit older now, but very solid addition. To be fair, even the Broly, although actually I think all extreme types actually were suffering from damage reduction, and Broly really only is there for damage, right? So even Vegeta, the LR, they got built-in dodge. They're not particularly great anymore, but they could be okay on the team. Probably should have given an honorable mention actually to the AGL Gogeta. His EZA, pretty solid still in an event like this that isn't super difficult. Same with the transforming Goku as well, really. And then of course JP with the World Tournament just got the EZA for this AGL Super Saiyan Gohan, so he can be pretty good as well. The superhero movie free-to-play Gohan could be fairly useful. This GT Goku's not too bad. The Tech Goten, it's not really going to be supporting anyone on this team. Tech Bardock would be pretty decent as well. This Super Saiyan Trunks, pretty good. This cooler movie Vegeta. So there's some decent units on here. Super Saiyans is a very big category. I would prioritize obviously the units that we talked about. Filling in any other tech units will definitely be good as well. But yeah, Super Saiyans for Android 13. That is the team building guide. Let me know what you guys think down below. Like I said at the beginning, if there's any units you think I missed or should have talked more about, mention them in the comments and let us know why they would be good in this event. And of course, let me know what your team build is going to look like for the Android 13 Extreme Z battle in the comments, and hopefully I will see you guys live at the stream so we can go through the 30 stages and start testing out the units. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.